I doubt Donald Trump, frankly, is particularly much to his personal taste.
Let's take a look at where we are then and just remind ourselves about the relationship, I suppose, the big night ahead for Donald Trump with King Charles and Queen Camilla. A state banquet will take place at Windsor Castle this evening. Here's a reminder of what the US president had to say ahead of the trip.
Well, my relationship is very good with the UK, and Charles, as you know, who's now king, is my friend. And it's the first time this has ever happened where somebody was honored twice, so it's a great honor. And this one's at Windsor. They've never used Windsor Castle for this before. They used Buckingham Palace. And I don't want to say one's better than the other, but they say Windsor Castle is the ultimate, right? So it's going to be nice.
I don't want to say one's better than the other, but they say Windsor Castle's the ultimate. And no one quite puts it like Donald Trump puts it. Let's just come to you, Adam, and talk about this evening and what you've enjoyed of the pictures today, I suppose, and what you're looking out for this evening. Any reflections so far?
Well, I think the key thing to say is so far so good. That this visit has gone well in spite of the drizzle. It's looked fairly spectacular. Donald Trump appears to be in a good mood. Of course, he's doing an interview, we think, at the moment with Fox News, so we'll have to see what he says. But so far, he hasn't said anything unexpected. And in terms of the announcements of tech investments, that appears to be on target. Of course, there's disappointment about steel and aluminium with the 25% tariff. But, you know, we have to remember that this whole visit is basically defensive for fear of what Donald Trump might do and to fend off some of his excesses. And it appears that it works, that this type of flamboyant flattery works with Donald Trump, and we'll have to wait and see what he says in his speech this afternoon. But I would say it was a success. I would say it was absolutely the right decision to keep him away from possible protests or people in the street. I'm not that surprised that the anti-demonstration was small. After all, it's a wet weekday rather than a sunny weekend. And also, I think overwhelmingly, in spite of the blanket coverage, I think overwhelmingly the great British public is just shrugging and just thinks this is the sort of thing that happens. I mean, in a sense, it reminds me of the state visit of Chinese leaders. You know, we're not particularly friendly towards them, but we've got to do it.
Yeah, I mean, okay, harsh perhaps, some will say. I mean, look, one notable thing is the absence of the public today. All of these events taking place in the sort of within the safety of the perimeter of Windsor Castle. There's got a sort of a huge steel barricade around it. And that also means the absence of the press as well. So there's been no opportunity today, has there, to hear from Donald Trump, to chuck a question at him. He's been kept busy all day on purpose. Yeah,
although, as I say, he's talking to the one representative of the American press, the friendly Fox News network. And incidentally, I understand Rupert Murdoch is amongst the guests this evening,
he is meant to be, yeah,
along with other tech titans. So we can see that in agreeing the guest list, they have focused on mutual commercial interests, if you like. Interesting in a sense that I don't think Nigel Farage is going, and it would not have been normal for Nigel Farage to be invited with the size of the parliamentary group of Reform UK, but had Donald Trump made a special request, it would have been accorded to, and clearly on this occasion he hasn't done that.
Yeah, so you think if he made the request, it would have been agreed to have Farage
absolutely.
there, even though Badenoch and Ed Davey not there?
Yeah, Ed Davey turned down his invitation because he has a technical qualification as the leader of the third largest party in Parliament. But, I mean, one point I would make is I just think absolutely this is brilliant for the royal family. I mean, they are gritting their teeth, getting on with it. That's what they're there for. And again, this level of flattery appears to work with the American delegation. And let's not forget also at the dinner.
How do you know that they're gritting their teeth, though? I mean, you're right. This is partly why they're there. But can we not applaud the king for his duty, for his keen diplomacy and the way he's managed his relationship with Donald Trump so far. Trump calling him a really good friend before he left for the visit.
Absolutely. I mean, he's good at his job. I doubt Donald Trump, frankly, is particularly much to his personal taste. And remember, of course, there was that gesture towards Zelensky after he was mistreated in the Oval Office, that the king went out of his way to show his support for Zelensky. So, and we know that this is what the royal family have to do. They have to turn up for these sort of events, and whatever they feel about them personally, get on with it. And I think they're doing a good job. As I was saying earlier, I think they've sort of earning their keep these couple of days.
There's a great piece, by the way, from David Charter in the Times. It's just gone up on the Times Online this afternoon. And it talks about Scott Bessent, the US Treasury Secretary, and how he's known Charles and Camilla for decades. He is, of course, a key ally of Donald Trump. It's just a fascinating insight. If anyone's got some time tonight, or you'll read it in the paper tomorrow, I'm sure, about Scott Bessent and his relationship with the King and Queen. Go back 3 decades, including a role in aiding their public emergence as a couple after he established himself as a trusted confidant.
Yeah, he's there tonight, and so is Marco Rubio, and so is Donald Trump's chief of staff. So, I don't know, Hugo know better than me, but it's quite a big delegation of ministers to come on a visit like this, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Hugo, in terms of the sort of protocol this evening, I mean, is there a rule whereby, on this sort of day, which is full of ceremony, politics cannot be discussed? There are certain topics that are veered away from. There is polite discussion, but that do not include X, Y, Z.
Well, I don't think they'll be including it in their speeches, but I guess they can chat away about whatever they like over dinner. I mean, we won't know what they say, which is always the good thing. But I mean, they are all going to be on their best behaviour, that you can be sure of. And the main purpose, as Adam was saying, was give them a good reception, get him in a good mood, respect him, put on the show. I mean, you may remember many years ago, the Queen, Elizabeth II, said in a documentary which was done by Edward Mertzoff, when President Lech Walesa came over, said we had to tell him that we didn't live like this every day, but it was very nice occasionally to bring out, all the gold and silver and put on a fantastic dinner.
Interesting.
I mean, and of course disputes about what the Queen really thought of Donald Trump.
Yes.
Donald Trump claiming that he was her favourite president, but also reports that she thought he was rude in the newspapers. So we don't know, do we?
Well, I think that apart from anything else, I think she really enjoyed studying him. I know she kept him longer on that first visit than she was meant to. And I mean, he would have been on his best behaviour. I mean, she will have known so many other presidents, and it would have been really interesting for her to examine this person and wonder how he got there and what he was about. But as I was saying earlier, I think the Queen sent every president away feeling they were the favourite.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't you think?
Exactly. I think she's a good operator. But
Yes.
one thing that one of the senior officials involved in that visit said to me was that although Trump was the rather sort of bullying, aggressive figure in public, in private he was intensely polite.
Yes.
and was constantly saying, am I doing the right thing, and all that. And, it's interesting what you say about Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, named the King for a long time. I mean, remember that, compared to, I don't know, the Chinese or the Japanese or whatever, not only do these people speak the same language, but they're also, in a sense, they share the same plutocratic background. So they have quite a lot in common. Donald Trump has been rich all his life. And obviously, our royal family have grown up in very privileged surroundings.
Sarah Elliott has joined Adam Boulton and Hugo Vickers here in the studio. She's director of the UK-US Special Relationship Unit at the think tank the Prosperity Institute. She's also a spokesperson for Republicans overseas. Sarah, are you hearing on the grapevine that there may be points that Donald Trump wants to make tomorrow in that news conference, or to Keir Starmer personally, if we're starting to look ahead to the sort of potential promises, pitfalls that we might get from Chequers?
Well, I think if any differences he has with the prime minister, I think will be held privately. I think this is very much about a unified front. A lot's coming out of this very short visit that I don't think we expected, such as the Atlantic Partnership for the Nuclear Energy and the Tech Prosperity Deal, which had been talked about. But to me, this seems like a very much affront to the adversaries of the West. This is a moment for Britain and the United States to show that they are going together once again, lead the free world, and challenge those that challenge the United States in tech and AI and energy. And I don't think we're going to hear many differences. I think they're going to keep those differences behind the scenes. So, for example, free speech, which has been talked about. Yes, the Trump administration is very critical about free speech here in the UK, particularly Vice President Vance. But to me, I think that's all being dealt behind the scenes. I think they want to show a unified front, and this is more about foreign policy and the direction of them as best partners leading the way. I mean, the United States still finds the United Kingdom as their best ally in the world. And despite the economic environment that the UK finds itself in now, the United States still wants to invest here and see the country succeed because they need a formidable and strong partner.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. I've been thinking about this news conference tomorrow, which I think will be rather more tightly controlled because it's on British territory than the one in at the golf course, which was a bit of a sprawling event. And I've been quite a lot of these things with prime ministers and presidents. I was thinking what question I would ask, and I think the question I would ask is what they said to each other about Israel, Gaza, and Ukraine. There is a difference there, but quite clearly, on the British side, there is a hope that they can come more closely together under exactly what you're saying, this idea of the old alliance. And I think they may be reluctant to talk about what they said in private, but that's what I would tease out. Alternatively, of course, some people might go for a cheap shot and bring up Epstein and say, well,
someone is going to ask about Epstein.
How come Peter Mandelson got sacked and you're president and you were both friends of this guy? I mean, you can ask that, but and that would certainly annoy Donald Trump.
Well, I mean, Donald Trump wasn't friends with him after he was convicted.
This is a good point to make.
Stepped far away, and in fact kicked him out of Mar-a-Lago in the 1980s. So, there's
because
a difference.
Epstein stole a load of staff from Mar-a-Lago, right?
Well, supposedly.
Yeah, but if all I'm just saying is someone wanted to ask a hostile question, that is probably where they would go. I mean, incidentally, I think the Che Gossians will be disappointed because, of course, the whole point about the deal was that it preserved an American base.
Yeah.
And the administration signed off on it.
We've got 2 more minutes with you, Adam Boulton. This has flown by. We'll hear more from Hugo Vickers after 8, by the way. What else is on your mind when we think about tomorrow? It's interesting what Sarah's said about Donald Trump being quite boosterish about the UK, whereas it feels like everyone else in this country really thinks we're kind of down at heel at the moment.
Well, there's been quite a lot of criticism of this country from some people around Donald Trump, and of course we've had the mayor of London hitting back, saying this isn't a crime-ridden failing city. It's
he wrote a
very
piece in the Guardian yesterday, absolutely laying into Trump.
Exactly, but I suspect that Donald Trump will be quite complimentary, talking about what we have in common. And I think this is one of the points not to miss about this visit. Yes, it's a historic second time. Yes, it's come about because Donald Trump responds to this sort of respect and treatment, but it is still an American president on a state visit to the UK, and so underlying this is the confirmation of what certainly the British like to think of as a special relationship.